Let's get physical. It's Jordan here, back again with this week's update on all the physical releases coming to the Switch. We're in the third week of May, looking at games from the 18th until the 22nd, retail, low print and imports, plus our community spotlight where you show off your pickups and potentially win one of these physical Switch games. Before we dive in, I should make it clear that due to the global climate right now, most of the games stated here are very precarious in if they'll actually make these release dates or not. This week especially is kind of all over the place, so please keep in mind that the accuracy here may not be exactly perfect, and it's been driving me insane this past month or so. Bear with us, we'll get through this. Hopefully in a few weeks clarity will be restored. I'd also like to welcome our new SwitchWatch Legend member, Jonathan Rumore, who joins God of Resin and Dane Wilkinson as executive producers of the show. Alright, let's get on with it. The Persistence was supposed to be releasing this week, but after recording this narration the first time, it seems to have gotten delayed and I had to do it again. Fun. This was once a PlayStation VR game, now being ported to other systems, including the Nintendo Switch. This is a first-person game with horror elements and was well praised at the time. It's an interesting mix of roguelike gameplay, where you're gonna end up dying a lot, but gradually increase your skills every time and hopefully be able to survive after a while. I know that Juan is currently playing through this for the digital release, which is definitely this week, and we may have a review for you lined up on Wednesday. Click that notification bell if you haven't already. Arcade Spirits has already released physically in Europe, but is due for a release in the US this week, maybe. This is a visual novel which, since it's been released, has sounded quite mediocre to me. Has anyone played it? Any thoughts on it? Please do let us know. And also, the Holy Potatoes Compendium was supposed to release this week in Europe, but now there's radio silence on that. Even after I contacted the publisher quite a few times, it looks like it may have slipped to September if Amazon UK is anything to go by. Who knows? Alright, let's talk about a Kickstarter, something that I know definitely can't be delayed, at least for this week. War of ASHBIRD. This is a tactical RPG where you build and defend your kingdom, it seems. 20 recruitable characters, 20 cities, and an expandable castle. Man, I love base building in my games. The physical tier price is an eye-watering $90, although you do get a digital copy too. The game is due for a console Switch release in 2020, which is quite far away. I do wonder if I'll still be doing this series at that point. Who knows? Alright, let's jump into the low print release. I Am 8-Bit announced that they are opening orders for Creature in the Well. This is an action puzzle game that's mixing Legend of Zelda dungeons with pinball. I reviewed it for the channel, although no one watched it, so I don't blame you if you don't know what it is. It's a decent game for sure, and I enjoyed it, but I felt it didn't fully develop its potential. It was kind of over before it started, really. Still worth a look. Check out my review if you need more info on this one. The Switch version only had 2,000 copies available, so it might actually be sold out by the time you see this. Hopefully not. Unsurprisingly, Creature in the Well is God of Resin's and Dane Wilkinson's pick of the week. It's not like they had any other choice, really. Alright, let's jump into imports this week. Not a lot, to be honest, so just very briefly. Rather unbelievably, it's taken a while, but the acclaimed visual novel Spirit Hunter NG is finally getting a Japanese release this week, long after the Western release. No need to import this one, of course, because it's been out in Europe and America for God knows how long. So only get this one if you're actually based in Japan, I suppose. Phantasy Star Online 2 Cloud Episode 6 is getting released in Japan this week. I know there are many fans of the original PSO, but sadly this is a Japanese exclusive on the Switch with no English, and I'm guessing it's not even been able to be played without some kind of trickery with your web connection. I'm guessing it's locked to Japanese IP addresses or something. Here's me sounding like I know what I'm talking about when I don't know jack. But anyways, even collectors or major fans will probably want to stay away since there's not even a cartridge with it. It's just extra in-game items and content to download on the free initial download. There's a standard edition and a limited edition which gives you a pin badge, I believe. Alright, let's just have a quick look at something a little bit miscellaneous, since I know many of you out there are massive fans of the sultry Shantae, so I want to give a shout out to Limited Run, who have a pre-order for a Shantae plushie from Fan Gamer, around 8 inches tall, with posable hair. It's nice to see some merchandise out there for indie games, that's always nice to see. You have until June 14th to get your pre-order in for this one. Alright, let's go into Community Spotlight where you show off your physicals. Plus, if you get featured, you'll be in with a chance of winning a physical Switch game, one of these. Plus, we have a secondary prize thanks to our regular contributor, Jonathan, who got a spare code for Hotline Miami collection. Now, he wanted to share with one of you guys. So, yes, next week, 2 prizes will be given away. As always, in this section, there will be some very interesting imports being shown off, and if I mention them and you want to purchase them for yourself, then there will be links in the description and the pinned comment as to where you can find them to buy for yourself. Affiliate links, so any purchase that you make helps us out massively. Plus, you can get 5% off your order with our PlayAsia coupon code SwitchWatchTV when you're checking out. Don't forget that, SwitchWatchTV for 5% off your order. It really helps us out so much, and you guys have been really amazing with this, as always. Alright, let's start off with my own pickup. I decided to take the plunge on a shooter that I've been eyeing up for a long time. This is Caladrius Blaze. It's a physical game only available in Asia, but it does have English on the cartridge. I love shmups, and after reviewing the shmup collection, I was having an urge for even more, and I picked this one up. It's one of the more reasonably priced imports too, often readily available, and I'm looking forward to giving it a try. I have to say I'm intrigued by one of the mechanics of this game, whereby I think the more damage that you take, the more clothes that your character loses, or something stupid like that. Something called shame break. So that means it's a shooter that's probably not safe for work, nor one that you'd want to play in front of the kids. You've been warned. I can't wait. Alright, let's get into you guys. Peter Clark seemed to take a shine to my pickup last week, as he also invested in the early Japanese release of Little Town Hero. Yes, this is coming to the West later, but is more expensive, has more of a collector's edition kind of feel to it, which, if you know me, as much as I like them, I tend not to go for those. I'm happy with the cheaper standard version. Plus, this has English, so it's available for those who feel the same way as me. Plus, I think this has a nicer cover art, and I'm shallow enough for that to really matter to me. Everyone's favourite action hero Kurt Cannongrave sent in a couple of pictures. First of a double helping of Naruto, the trilogy, and then the recent 4th game, which sadly never got a physical release in America, which is crazy. And secondly, he got the Wonder Boy goodness, the Dragon's Trap remake, and the newest in the series, Monster Boy. Both great games, I can attest to that. Mansfield Bear got in 2 very different games. Firstly, Turok, which I swear if I ever see in the flesh, I am nabbing it. Plus, Little Dragon's Cafe, which has some of the cutest box art ever. J-Tin was proud to send in this awesome photo of Animal Crossing interior art, as well as some amiibo cards. At one point, I did consider buying a pack of cards myself, but I strangely couldn't find them anywhere, at least not for a reasonable price. Avery Brown sent in 3 games, all with great artwork, plus another game which I had no idea had a physical release. I don't claim to be a proper expert, but I'm widely read in physicals, but I had no idea Yono and the Celestial Elephant had physical release. Perhaps one of those mainland European exclusives. After research, it seems to have gotten a release in France and Germany at least, and also Belgium, which appears to be the only one with an English language front cover. Although that's not a fact, don't hate me if I'm wrong, it's just what I've seen. And you know what? I'm gonna buy it and test it for you guys. I'm gonna buy this from Belgium, and I'm gonna see if it does have an English cover, and yeah, I'll let you guys know. Outlaw Reaver sent in this picture with the much desired physical version of Bayonetta 1. You have to pay big bucks for that, unless you were lucky at the start. Plus, he has Fallen Legion, which is a game that I see all the time for sale, yet rarely see it in the series. It's an interesting game, and I was going to review it for the channel way back when, but it's also one of the few times where I just had to quit because I had just too many things going on at the time. Chris from Cali got in Deathmark, Deadly Premonition, as well as the horror game Remothered. Quite an obscure physical, really don't see that too often. Vast Neon has these games to show off, including the ever wonderful Okami. I swear it's a game that I will buy anytime it's released on another console. Just a wonderful game, and one of the must-have imports for the Switch. It's also quite weird seeing Nintendo Labo boxes. I'm just used to seeing like the big giant massive boxes with all the card and stuff. It's easy to forget that they also have these smaller boxes too. Toshiro Nico is a person of culture, as we can see in these games, including the lovely imports of Dead or Alive Extreme 3 and Omega Labyrinth Live, one of which I can wholly recommend over the other. I'll leave you to decide which. They also had this massive Isabelle promo material, which is oddly terrifying. Imagine waking up in the morning to that in the corner of your room. Renato Ferris sent in this picture with a very eclectic mix of games. It's nice to see an obscure physical import there with Bookbound Brigade. This is a Metroidvania made in Korea, I believe, and only saw a physical release in Japan and Asia, but they do have English on them, and we reviewed this for the channel. No one watched it, but it's a good game and worth a look for an import if you're into obscure stuff as well as good stuff. It is good. Stuart Holmes sent in these low print releases. I have to say, low print companies generally get their box art right, and this is especially shown here. Oxenfree looks like it could be an album cover. Absolutely gorgeous. Troy got in Mortal Kombat 11 as well as Darksiders Genesis, which reminds me, did any of you guys see the Game of the Year edition of Mortal Kombat 11, or whatever it's called? What are your thoughts on that? I know a lot of people were cheesed off about it. Penguin sent in these 4 games, all from low print companies. Dragon's Lair is worth it for the box art alone, right? It's a classic. Retro Games sent in their picture of Limited Run's Collector's Edition of Bad North, which they were very impressed with, especially the attention to detail gone into it with the nice coin and the USB stick. Lilith picked up these games, Owlboy, Trials of Mana, loving the complementary artwork between the two there. Also Katana Kami from Play Asia, as well as Blossom Tales from Limited Run. And finally they got Dust and Elysian Tale, which is supposedly superb. Our executive producer God of Resin sent a couple of pictures this week. I love the artwork for the SNK Anniversary Collection. Plus they have a game that I don't see too often, the Toho Battle Burst V or 5, whatever it is. It's very, shall we say, a special game. I haven't played it, but it looks super rough. Although I do have a soft spot for anime-style cover art. Christian sent in this picture of Trials of Mana. It's a game I highly recommend, as you'll know if you see my review of it. Many complained about how I described it, like more of like a PlayStation 2 game in terms of visuals and design. Although, to be fair, that wasn't a negative point in my opinion. I stick by it, but it did touch a nerve or two with a lot of people. Joshua Brown showed off this nice stack of games, including Carmen Rider, Climax Scramble, and Imports. Don't see that one too often. I mean, it does have English, so I'm surprised I don't see it here more often. Also, I can't help but spy a lovely Super Robot Wars games in there too. Chuck's Taylor sent in this picture of Flipping Death, a nice comedic game, plus Umihara Kawase Fresh, a spin-off game, is hitting soon, including a Western physical retail release that was announced not too long ago. Captain Nemo sent in a few pictures showing mostly some first-party AAA Nintendo goodness, but I'm happy to see the mindless hack and slash of Warriors Orochi 4 in there. These games get a bad rep, but I find them very relaxing and sometimes the perfect remedy after a long, hard day at work. It's mindless, but fun. Alolan Jojo's picked up 2 copies of Animal Crossing. I mean, no wonder they sold like 13 million copies in like a month or something crazy. I've put 100 hours into my game so far, but I have to admit, I haven't played it for like almost a week now. It might be tough going back. Quartz showed off this picture of their collection. I keep meaning to pick up Child of Light. Here in China, it's relatively cheap. Plus, it's Ubisoft, so it's almost always on sale at some point. I heard great things about Valiant Hearts 2, but I've never played it myself. George Oliveira sent in 3 photos. They have a healthy selection of games from Red Art Games, including the one that I forget, Splasher. I totally forgot that had a physical release until I saw this picture. I have to say, I think Red Art Games started strongly in their releases, but I think they've had a poor pickup of games recently, as though they're struggling to find some quality that, you know, Limited Run and Super Rare games don't snap up. It must be tough business for, like, second-tier low-print companies. Momohasa, sorry, I still don't know how to say your name, sent in this picture of Star Wars Pinball. I love Star Wars. I love pinball. This seems like something that I should have in my collection, right? Art Phoenix Asordis sent in this picture of their Atelier collection. It's a pity that 6 in the middle don't have any English, but at least we got the Dusk Trilogy collection from Play Asia. That's always there to help. One of the must-have imports if you're into JRPGs. Punky Dooster once again allowed us inside his card case to show some low-print games, including the very awesome Freedom Planet, which is a game that I very much enjoy, as it was a beacon of solace before, you know, Sonic Mania came along. It was a more action-oriented Sonic game, and a bloody good one at that. Choco Loco James got in the very interesting import-exclusive Human Resource Machine, which includes that game, plus its sequel, a book, and a soundtrack CD. I wondered why it was a bit pricey, but well, now you can see, it's a collector's edition. Bruno Silva got in a bit of a bargain with Alliance Alive HD, a nice JRPG that got even less attention on the Switch than it did on the 3DS. Definitely nice at that price though. Roberto Makoto sent in some very nice games, some really nice imports too. Loving that Pato box, one of my favorite indie games on the Switch. Shame that it's sold out now. Plus an obscure one right there, Headliner Novi News. An interesting game from what I've read up on it. Severist sent in a great picture, again, very import heavy. Again, we have Bookbound Brigade, which I already mentioned. The Japanese Volume 1 of the Kemco RPG collection, 4 budget JRPGs in English. I have this import myself. Another import not seen often is Mistover, as well as the Pixel Puzzle 3-in-1. It's also worth noting that all these import exclusives have English on the cartridge. But the star of the show is definitely Space Invaders. I got a nice look at it last week, but this week is a step further with the special edition that comes with a board game, as well as like arcade artwork stuff. God, I wish I could afford it. Joshua Champagne sent in the recent pickup of Trials of Mana, plus the Super Robot Wars Holy Trinity. Easily my favorite imports on the Switch. They're expensive, but I definitely think they're worth it. Dark King Koopa showed off these games that they picked up, including that big box Thimbleweed Park, plus the compilation game that I've wanted to try for a while, the Atari Flashback Collection. I'm sure like 90% of the games in there are rubbish, but, you know, I feel games of that era are something that I'm lacking from my knowledge. I'm a Super Nintendo and onwards kind of guy. And finally, to truly show off my lack of knowledge, last week I said that I thought Shantae Half Genie Hero only got a physical release in the US, not the EU. Well, I was wrong, and many of you, many of you called me out on that. And James Church even had pictures to prove it. I have no idea why I've never seen this, or at least noticed this before. I can only apologize, and it's proof that I'm not only human, but also, you shouldn't take anything that I say as gospel. I might pretend I know what I'm talking about, but actually I'm a bit of an idiot, so yeah. Anyways, thanks ladies and gents. If you want to send in your recent editions, or perhaps your favorite Switch games, or your favorite imports, or whatever, it doesn't matter how many you send, just send it to me over on Twitter at SoWhatAboutGame. Please DM me so I can keep track of it. Or you can email it into us at contactors@switchwatch.co.uk. But that's not ideal, because I don't know why, but it's just so slow for me to access it. Or you can send it over on Discord, which we can have a chat with you, and you can send it to the submission section in there. If you want a link to our server, it's in the description below, maybe the pinned comment if I remember. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of New Physical. Special thanks to our executive producers, Dane Wilkinson, God of Resin, and our new executive producer, Jonathan Rumore, plus all our other members. We just want to thank you so much for your support. So, what's taking your fancy this week? Nothing, probably, right? Yeah, it's not been a great week, guys. I'm hoping next week is going to be much, much better. We'll see you guys over there. Take care.